Carpoolers, welcome to another episode of Carpool. Each week I give someone interesting a lift and we have a little conversation. This week's episode is by no means an exception to that. It's a wonderful pleasure to have today's guest in the car. I've known him for quite some time now. He did have a very large involvement in the creation of a very popular British TV sitcom. He is a very amusing guy, a writer, much published writer, and now a stand-up comic. Extraordinary turn of events. Please welcome into the passenger seat the very amusing Rob Grant. I'd love you to tell that, if you don't mind, is how easy it was to get Red Dwarf on the telly, because that story is, you know, because I remember you telling me the battle that you went through.
Yeah, well, it was a bloody nightmare. Basically, we wrote it. Doug and I went away and we wrote the pilot in a week in Wales. He stayed at a cottage in Wales.
Really? Wow.
And we were pleased with it. At the time, we were working on Spitting Image,
Right.
which was at that time it was '83. It was huge.
Yeah.
So we took it to the BBC, and we were very keen to get it on at the BBC because it's a big difference when you get the full half hour in a show.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell slightly complicated stories, on ITV, even then you only got 22 minutes.
Yeah.
It's less now.
Yeah.
If you look at those American sitcoms, it's like two little sketches.
So short, aren't they? Yeah.
And so we wanted the full half hour to tell proper stories. And so we really, really wanted to do it at the BBC. And we were kind of BBC born and bred. We grew up at the BBC.
Yeah.
And they rejected it.
Right.
And so, you know, Doug is so persistent. I mean, if it hadn't been for Doug, he would not have got on.
Right.
I would have just gone, oh, well. Doug said, why have they rejected it? Take it back to them. and so our agent went back and they said, no, they are definitely rejecting it.
Wow.
At which point I would have said, oh, and Doug said, no, well, we'll go in and see them then.
Right.
So we went in and we had a big story rehearsed about how the 7 of the 10 biggest movies of all time was science fiction.
Right.
Because we knew that basically what was putting them off was that it was science fiction.
Right.
And they're terrified of it, the BBC, for unfathomable reasons.
Yeah.
Because
they've had some success. I mean, Doctor
every
Who.
science fiction series they do has enduring success.
Yeah.
But, you know, the people who make those decisions are not very science fiction savvy. And so anyway, we went in to see the head of light entertainment, as it was then at the BBC, who said that, you know, and we got on with him very well. And we gave him our pitch about how science fiction was responsible for the 7 of the best-selling movies of all time. So to which his response was, class A, our cousins across the pond. Was to dismiss him. They're not, you know.
Oh, I see.
And so anyway,
it was American.
So
cousins across the pond.
Because that's how in touch they were. So anyway, we had this, and we put up a good case, so I say so myself. And in the end, we got on with him. And in the end, he said, I agree, you're absolutely right. What we need is a science fiction sitcom, and I think I'm going to commission you to write one. And Doug, I swear to God, picked up the script and slammed it down in front of him and said, there it is. and he still rejected us.
So he wanted to commission you to write
a science fiction sitcom. Just not that one.
I mean, that was '83, that meeting. So
that was '83, that meeting.
God, so a long time then, before it actually appeared. Hell of a long time.
Yeah. And finally, what happened was that Paul Jackson had a slot in.
Yeah, he explained that. Yes, yeah.
In Manchester, he showed the script to Peter Ridsdale Scott up in Manchester, and he said, "Bloody hell! Why is nobody doing this?"
Wow.
And they were on it right from the start.
Right.
And they got it, and they wanted to do it, and so we went up there to do it. And that's how it got on.
Yeah.
We sort of sneaked in through the back door, and we were constantly, throughout the course of the first few series, thinking that we were going to get caught. You know, somebody from from London BBC was going to come along and go, all right, lads, you had a good run.
Dad was going to find out.
Yeah, that we were petrified.
God, it was so against the odds, wasn't it?
It really was, right from the start. When we'd done the first series, I thought it was hideous. I thought the production values were awful, and we didn't even get the best. I'm sorry to say this to the guys who were there. We didn't get the top people at BBC Manchester across the board. The production designer, it was pretty grim.
Yeah,
it was pretty awful.
I mean, what is interesting now on reflection is the amount of people who go, oh man, you know, because that's the criticism I get the most often in Red Dwarf is, yeah, but really by the time you joined it had lost something. You know,
I know.
Because it wasn't, you know, they loved the wobbly sets and the holly hop drive that was, you know, probably a box of cornflakes with some paint.
Yeah, you can actually see the Kellogg's cockerel through the paint. It was, and it was just, you know, it was people who'd worked in light entertainment who hadn't got that experience and had never seen a science fiction show in their lives. Yeah. And we were desperately trying not to do that sort of early Doctor Who thing and have the wobbly sets and the cardboard. And fortunately, from the very beginning, what we did have was we had the fantastic Peter Ragg special effects team, who were, again,
and they were right from the beginning.
And they built the spaceship. I remember the first time we went to see Red Dwarf, we talked to Peter about what we wanted from it, and I said, you know, we wanted it to be really huge and ungainly and kind of like, you know, not a sleek, Blake 70 kind of zoomy ship. We wanted it to be a bulky monster, and it was huge. It was like 8 feet.
Oh wow!
It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. Right. The guys who were doing it really loved it.
Right.
And they'd gone to all the detail when you went over it. All the little Airfix kits and ripped bits off and stuck it on, and they had a big asteroid implanted in the side that had cranes on it because they were working on that. They'd been, and it sort of had a backstory. This little, but the thing that astonished me was it was red.
Right.
And I thought, no, that doesn't look anything like a spaceship. It's red. I know it's called Red Dwarf, but we didn't think it was going to be red. And because it just didn't look. I wanted it to look, you know, like gritty and alien-y, and but I kind of grew to love that. Yeah. And it kind of made it special and unique. Yeah.
So those opening credit shots and all that stuff is that model then? That's what was used?
Yeah, it's a composite. Peter talked about doing this shot where you write in on the Red Dwarf sign, and you get the paintbrush going up, and it's Lister in a spacer, and you pull out and you pull out and you pull out from that, and eventually you mix that into the model shot, and we just were in love with that.
Right, yeah, no, such a good idea. Yeah.
And Howard Goodall written this fantastic somber kind of music, which completely is the only thing that gave us any kind of gravitas.
Yes.
And those, we sort of blew almost all the budget on for special effects on that opening shot and the model.
But yeah, because by the time I turned up on it all, it was, you know, very well established, and I mean, presumably bigger budgets and more. You know, I mean,
actually, no. I mean,
probably not bigger budgets.
You know, it wasn't. This is the surprising thing. Everybody thinks we got a big budget injection in season 3, which isn't what happened. What really happened was, even though it was mine and Doug's baby, and we were writing the scripts, and we were going to all the rehearsals, we were sitting through every element of it.
Yeah, you were always there, weren't you? Certainly in that.
Nobody was listening to us. Nobody would listen to us. So you'd go up to the set designer and say, do you think it would be a good idea, you know, to have something that's not fucking grey anywhere? And he'd go, yeah, absolutely. And just ignore us.
Right. Oh, wow.
Because we were writers. And they just ignore, people just ignore writers. So by season 3, we'd said to Paul, look, nobody's listening to us. Make us producers.
Right.
Just give us the name, you know, producers, just so people listen to us.
Wow.
And he said, no, you've got to be proper producers. You're going to produce it. I'm going to take a back seat. You can do it. And so we became producers.
So that's the difference.
And then people had to listen to us. And so we said, you know, we got Mel Bibby on board to completely redesign the whole set and the whole look of the thing, and we spent the money where we wanted to spend it. Yeah. In those days, when it was models, and nowadays you do it all CGI.
Yeah.
But in those days, it was really literally models, and they existed, and I loved it. It was, you know, because what boy doesn't like building models?
Oh no, I mean it was.
And I used to. Those are my favourite bit every season. Going to the special effects workshop and saying, "Oh God, that's the polygon."
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Brilliant. I thought of that. I'm a stickler for continuity and for not. You know, for establishing a reality in the science fiction and not going beyond it. But Doug pulls the other way and he says, look, if it's shit, why are we going to go on doing it just because we did it before?
Right.
And so we pulled against each other in that, and I think we got, you know, a nice compromise.
Yeah.
And so we completely redressed the set. We redesigned we got in a new costume designer,
right?
And we got in you,
yeah.
And
because we ought to cover that, because weren't you opposed to having a bloody robot in it?
I was, just because.
I can completely understand. I totally understand. I mean,
I kind of like the idea that, you know, because always in a science fiction show you have a robot.
Yeah.
And I just wanted us to be different. And we always had this thing from the start. That we were going to do a science fiction show with no aliens.
Yes.
Because they're all about aliens.
Yes.
And it would force us to write different kinds of stories about the people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that worked out well. I mean, it was a pain in the ass when you're coming up with the ideas at the beginning of the
genetically
series.
engineered life forms. That
it's
solved a lot of problems.
It's a cheat. When we came to doing Series 3 as well, we did feel like, you know, it is basically the two of them. The cat doesn't talk to anyone. Holly's a waste of time because Holly's in a world of his own, really, and so it's basically we've got a conversation between two people, no aliens, and a third person would really help us all. So our favourite sort of appearance character in the first two seasons was Crichton,
right?
Who was played by David Ross, who was an actor we knew from way back from our radio days.
Right.
Very funny guy.
Oh, he's brilliant.
We saw a video of you, I think, at Edinburgh doing your mammoth.
Yeah.
Which was a robotic thing.
Yeah.
And we said, we love it. Let's get him. And I don't even think we auditioned you, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I came into... Yes, I think so, yeah. Because, I just came in to talk to you, didn't I?
Yeah,
I do remember that.
Audition
Yeah.
But really, you would have had to stab one of us not to get it, you know.
Yes. Well, that was... But I mean, that's my memory of it, is that I'd gone all moody because I'd done some bad, you know, really bits of drama, and I just didn't like... I didn't want to be an actor, you know. So when they said... I think my agent said they want you to go and audition. I don't want to do auditions. I'm not interested. You know, it was like, really? No, I now think back and go, God, you were such an idiot. You know, just shut up and do it. But, you know, I'd had a lot of bad experiences of sort of doing auditions and not feeling like a proper... And doing, like, for dramas, not for comedy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just not cut out for it, and I shouldn't have done it. So that was why I think... Probably Paul Jackson said, don't worry, it's not an audition, it's a meeting. And that's how he would have talked to my agent and go, no, I'll tell him it's a meeting.
Well, I don't think it was an audition as such. You know, we'd seen you.
But I'm just immediately sparked off you. I just thought...
And one of the big things we really, really wanted in the show was somebody who could say the word phenomenon. Because I swear to God, there are about 2% of actors in the world can say the word phenomenon.
But what do they say then?
Phenomenon.
Phenomenon.
I don't know why.
Phenomenon. It's not that. I mean, there are words that trick me up, but not that one.
It's not hard if you can do it, Bobby.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
But honestly, most people.
So did you get me to say phenomenon that day?
I think we might have tricked you into it. But you look like the kind of guy who can say phenomenon.
That's funny.
And which is why, and I apologise now, you know, for all those years where you had to learn all those.
Oh, there were some tough speeches.
All that technical stuff.
While my brain was at temperatures that, you know, really should have been shielded in lead.
Yes,
you could have generated power from it. I don't know how. I don't think it had any long-term effect really, but you know, I sometimes wonder. Yeah.
It's torture.
It was a form of torture, yeah. You know, there was the bigger family of the entire crew, which I thought was always really good on Red Dwarf. There was a really good commitment to the show, wasn't it? Always, which went right across from the runner to you guys to, you know, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was a love. It would have been much harder to do without that little chunk of trench humour camaraderie of the cast. I mean, it was, you know, there wasn't I didn't feel that there was a star in it or that there was some sort of difficult hierarchy. And you know, really quickly, I was accepted into that little gang, very fast. And I mean, I think probably for 6 years I was the new boy. Craig, you know, he would, you know, it was done in such a way that it was great. You know, it wasn't ever a, because that could be, you know, they'd worked together for quite a while before that.
Yeah, but I think you sort of came as a sort of bridge because Craig and Chris,
they had their moments.
Don't meld.
Although now I have to say they're much more meldy.
Well, I think
they just as you get older, they kind of go, oh, well, that was all a bit silly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Chris has mellowed a lot. He's
He's lovely.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah. But I mean, they've all been really good fun to work with. Danny has maintained his barking mad, totally bonkers insanity. He hasn't mellowed at all.
He hasn't mellowed, and he doesn't seem to have aged.
No.
What the fuck is that about?
Jesus Christ! How's he look like that still?
It's frustrating.
Oh. God, when I think of the hours I've wasted going to the gym, and Danny just, you know, when he took his fucking shirt off last year, and he just looks like a 21-year-old, but he looks like your son. You know, he's got this, he's just ripped and, you know, it's not fair.
It's dancing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember once he didn't have a belt, and I wasn't the weight I am now. I was like the normal human weight. I was like 11, 12 stone, and he said, "Oh, I've lost my belt." I said, "Oh, I've got the spare," and I gave him my belt, and he was like,
"Right, yeah, no, he's got such a tiny weight
laughing at
still,
it for 3 series."
Yeah, yeah. Yes, of course, he would have trained off that for such a long time, and still now, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
And those audiences, I do remember that as being, that was the thing that really knocked me out was, you know, because at that time my experience was live performing, you know, in front of an audience. That's what I'd done for years. So, and then my little experience of telly was in a studio with quite an uptight and bitter and very well-educated director who thought I was shit. You know, that's been my experience, and no audience to show off to. And suddenly there was this fantastic, you know, the brilliant live audience.
And that, you know, we got a lot of, we still do, I think, from the earlier seasons. A lot of criticism from people who said, "Oh, it's the canned laughter." We never, ever had canned laughter. That was genuinely shown to human beings who laughed like that.
Who were sitting there watching it. Yeah.
And it's such a good thing, not only as a performer, because, you know, you get to time your jokes, you get to milk a joke, you know, when it's funny and when it's not. But from a writer's point of view, you get to see what's working, and, you know, that kind of
your feedback for you guys
brilliant.
Must have been amazing,
so I lament the passing of audience sitcoms.
Yeah. In my experience, it was already a really well-known show, so when...
So you knew it quite well.
No, well, the thing was, I was performing at night, and of course I didn't have a VCR, I had a bloody black and white telly.
Yeah.
But I'd seen it, so I'd seen quite a few episodes, but never the Crichton one. It's the one I hadn't seen, so I didn't know. I didn't know what... I thought I'd have a RoboCop head on. You know, like a thing, and I'd take it off and go and have lunch and put my cravat on. I had genuinely, until they covered my head in plaster of Paris, I had no idea. Seriously, no idea. I thought there'd be, you know, I'd have a chin, you know, and I'd go, you know, and I'd be like RoboCop.
Yeah, a bit stuck on like a ball.
Yeah, and you know, and you'd have your lunch. I didn't know that I was going to be completely... You covered that very well, and that should have been a clue to me to what was in store. You know, don't tell him that his whole fucking head is covered.
Completely buried in rubber.
But I think also, I don't know if I ever said that to you, but Paul Jackson remembers it. I think I said it to him. Because at that time, Mammon, the play I'd done in Edinburgh, had been commissioned as a sitcom by Channel 4. The script, you know, and I'm actually...
Oh, had it?
Yeah. And there was a lot of negotiation, you know, it was certainly lots of meetings and all that sort of stuff about it. And then
Paul was producing it, was he?
No, it was nothing to do with him at all. No, I can't remember who. I think it might have been Talkback or something like that was involved in it. I can't even remember. But I think I said, at some point, I know I said, my worry is I don't want to be typecast as a robot. Oh. It's so unfair. And I want to go back to my sort of tragic, not that young self, and go, you just...
There's so many things like that in your life, aren't there, where you just wish you could just suck them back.
Yeah. As that then developed, because then we went to America together, and that was a whole other adventure.
That's for another carpool.
I think so. I think there's a lot of that happened in that one. I mean, that was bloody extraordinary.
It was a strange experience.
Oh, God.
You know, I think we didn't really quite understand what was happening there. Because, you know, we had car parking spaces.
I know. I didn't have a car.
We had a golf cart, and I didn't realise till Doug and I had a golf cart to go from the office to the thing, which apparently, you know, you've got to be Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, really? To get a golf cart is a big deal?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's bigger than a car parking space.
Oh, well, but Patrick Stewart said he never had a car parking. He couldn't believe I had a car parking space. He was doing Star Trek. He didn't have anywhere to park.
They were treating us like royalty. I know. It's balmy.
Yeah.
Balmy.
The other one, so many people asked, obviously, is why you stopped doing it after Series 6. I mean, what that was, and I've never known, and I don't know, and I've been asked more times than I can poke a stick at, and I've just said,
well,
I didn't want to
basically,
do it anymore. You know, it seems to be the best excuse.
It was basically musical differences between me and Dick.
Right.
Really. That was it.
Right. But yeah, lots of people have asked if you get on with Doug now, which you do. I mean, we
see each other from time to time.
Yeah.
We had a reunion lunch for Sin and Cliche, which is a radio series we used to do, right up until the mid-80s, actually.
Right.
On Radio 4,
yeah,
which was successful as radio shows could be at the time, and it was Chris Barry was actually in it.
Right.
And we had a reunion at some 25-year, couldn't believe it, reunion lunch that went on for about 9 hours. So,
yes.
We all got together and so we did.
Oh, was Chris there? Did he go to that? Right.
Chris was there.
Right. So I'm personally intrigued as to what you think now. Then, for I suppose it's difficult. You can't answer really. You can't. I know you can't say. But what you think of the ones that have happened?
I can't watch them.
Can you not? All right. That's what I would expect.
I tried watching some of season 7.
Yeah.
But I found that I had to get so drunk to be able to watch it that I had no idea what was going on.
It must have been.
But it's like watching a video of your ex-wife's second honeymoon night. It's
nice. Yes.
There's nothing in it for you.
No, there's not a lot.
So
I want to see that now. I want to see someone watching the video of their ex-wife's second honeymoon, just to see what happens. It's worth doing the experiment.
It is actually. I don't know.
We could use these cameras. We could mount them up in the. Okay, what we're going to do now? And they're slightly pissed. My fucking ex-missus, she was a bitch. Okay, now just sit here. Look, we're going to show you this. It's really funny. This film, you love it. It's like a holiday movie. It's short.
Look at that technique he's got there.
Yeah, it's short. It's only 5 minutes. It's not going to take very long.
She's loving it.
That would be horrible. Oh God. So I mean, I don't know. Are you still writing now? I mean, is that what you do?
Yeah.
You're writing books and.
Yeah, I do novels and I doing a bit of stand-up and.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, that was right at the top of my list. I've done some research because I wanted to come and see you, and I can't remember where I wasn't there when you were on there.
Oh yeah.
But so you've done it? Did you do a little tour last year?
I did a mini tour of.
And how was it? Because I mean, have you done? I thought had you ever done live performing before? I mean,
not since school.
Right.
No, but what happened was I was going around touring with the novels, doing a publicity tour with the novels, and there would be an evening with kind of session.
Right. Yeah.
People would actually pay to come and see me read out bits of the book, and then just answer questions.
Yeah.
And it got so, but by the end of these tours, I'd actually got a sort of routine together.
Right.
So I thought, you know what, I kind of miss audiences, and I'd like to try it out. I can write funny stuff.
Yes, exactly.
So the only thing is I can't perform. So I went out and I started doing it, and I did a few small gigs. First to sort of get off the ground. I organised some comedy nights locally, and I went around. I actually did a gig in Edinburgh.
Oh, did you?
During the festival, yeah.
Last year was that? Last August?
This August, yeah.
Yeah.
Charity gig it was. And I did a few comedy clubs up and down the country. And then I embarked on this kind of mini tour to see, A, if people would come and see me, and B, if I could, do a full show.
Right. So how long do you do then? Do you do like
90 minutes.
Bloody hell.
Which is insane. And
oh, God, that's scary.
Most stand-ups only do an hour anyway.
Yeah.
I found out later.
Yeah.
But my wife had booked me in. I did.
He'll do 90.
It was like that. I did one night. The first night I did a comedy night I'd organised, and we had a few professional comedians doing it, and I did the last 20 minutes.
Right.
And it went down tremendously well. It was
Right.
really, and it felt great. It's just brilliant to get that audience reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
And the next day, I was just making my first coffee, and my wife came down the stairs and said, "I've booked you in at a 500-seater theatre to do a 90-minute show." And she said, "You don't look pleased." I'd done 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And
there's a big difference.
it is.
Big
It's
bloody
huge.
difference.
But without that, if she hadn't done that, I'd still be, fiddling around
Yeah.
doing 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And I'm quite astonished actually how different audiences are. Sometimes it's getting a laugh, sometimes it isn't, sometimes they're falling on the floor. It's a bizarre experience, really.
Yeah.
I have a joke at the sort of early on in the set, so I can sort of gauge how the audience is going. And so it's a really good idea if you look upon jokes like this. You can't possibly invent them.
Yeah.
It's a joke that if it always got a big laugh, and I started going to different audiences, and some of them would start laughing at the set because they were finishing the joke in their head, and you think, "Oh right, this is going to be a good night."
Yeah.
They're savvy. And then some later on I found just didn't laugh at all. Now the joke's no less funny. I'm not screwing it up.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting phenomenon.
Yes.
See, we got that word in.
Brilliant. We're good.
We're good.
Rob, thank you so much, mate. That was really good.
I'll
Well
get us
done.
a ticket.
We got that. Oh, good. Get us a ticket, quick.
I would love to find a way of making the whole of central Oxford car free,
Yeah.
so that the pedestrians could move around, we could relate to each other more.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't be noisy. We would be able to use bikes to get everywhere we want without being killed by cars, and we would have a sense that the town belonged to us rather than the car drivers who come in and out every day.
So we're doing the worst thing possible.
This is absolutely awful. I mean, I have put a plastic bag, a brown paper bag over my head just
You're
in
so
case
ashamed of it.
anybody sees me.